Good evening, everyone. I'd like to open up the meeting at 7:35. Sorry for the delay. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Megan, please kindly take roll.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Statenol and posted on the township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order as listed on the meeting agenda. Committeeman Dorsey?
Here.
Committeeman Ray is absent. Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Here.
Mayor Paserchia.
Present. So we're going to start off with a presentation from Public Safety Director Mike Peoples. He's going to give the township an update on the accreditation process for those who remember at the State of the Municipality of Long Hills Township in January. This committee committed whoever was coming in to work on the accreditation process as soon as practicable. And so I think now, Mike, if I can call you up, or I should say, I apologize, Director Peoples, if I can call you up and give a presentation or an update.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be before this governing body once again. As you may know, the New Jersey State Chiefs Association came to our police headquarters on May 30th to what we call an on-site inspection. Prior to arriving at police headquarters, they examined all our policies and procedures to determine compliance with over 120 state accreditation law enforcement standards. As you may know, Long Hill Township Police Department has had a long history of being accredited, all the way back to 1985, where we were the first accredited police department, and that was through the CALIA program.
First accredited in the state of New Jersey.
In the state of New Jersey. A designation we held up until 2013, when at the time the police department transitioned to the state program. The CALIA program, the national program at that time, was a bit burdensome for a smaller police department like ours. The Chiefs Association, New Jersey Chiefs Association program was a better fit at that time. So the police department transitioned to that program. The police department held that designation up until June of 2022. So one of the first challenges that this governing body gave me when you hired me is to obtain our accreditation certification again. Myself, along with Executive Assistant Sean Brown, Sergeant Segalski, all the members of the police department had some role in the on-site. When the assessors come to police headquarters, they now want to see if we are actually doing what we're saying in our policy. So if we have to generate a form as a result of an arrest, generate some type of proof that we're checking our patrol vehicle before we go out on patrol and after we complete patrol. That process of proving your compliance with the accreditation standards is really the focus of the on-site. Again, there's about 120 standards. They have multiple bullets in each of the standards. So it's quite involved in generating those proofs of compliance for the team of assessors. So I'm pleased to report that we had no issues. The final decision on accreditation rests with the Chiefs Association Commission. We actually go before that commission tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Not anticipating, any issues. Hopefully, it's more of a formality at this point. But just, publicly, I want to thank the support of the governing body, as well as the support of the officers, of the police department, because it is an accomplishment. And it follows the long tradition of this police department of leading the way when it comes to best practices in law enforcement.
So beyond this, are we going to pursue CALIA accreditation as well?
That is my intent. I've already reached out to CALIA and secured the standards. Fortunately, a majority of the standards that we comply with in the New Jersey program, they're also included in the CALIA program. But there are some additional standards we'll need to comply with. One, actually, I sent a draft policy last week. We have a number of service members in our department. One of the CALIA standards is that we have a comprehensive military leave policy incorporating federal, state law, how we handle when the officer returns from, deployment in terms of training and integrating the officer back into the police department. So that's a small example of an additional policy that we would have to comply with for CALIA accreditation.
And then what are the benefits to the department of the CALIA accreditation? Are there benefits in terms of federal funding or anything like that, since it's a nationwide accreditation?
There are for federal grants. There was an executive order that was issued by the federal government that not necessarily that you had to be CALIA accredited, but you had to demonstrate compliance with some of the federal standards to be eligible for the federal grants. So this would assure us, becoming a CALIA accredited, that we're following those federal standards. So in the event that we wanted to potentially apply for a federal grant, and that was a requirement of the federal grant, we would be in compliance.
Yeah, this is terrific, and I know this was your main task coming on board, was to regain the accreditation that we lost. So let's assume that we get this done, and it sounds like we will. CALIA will probably be an activity that goes on, I would say, through the end of the summer. I'm just guessing.
It's going to be a little more involved than
Yeah.
the New Jersey Chiefs Association. We had the foundation of our policies and procedures within the departments. I equate it to, we had all the pieces to the puzzle. We just had to bring the puzzle together. Since the department hasn't been CALIA accredited in over 10 years, what we call the self-assessment period is going to take a little longer than it did with the Chiefs Association.
Right.
But this was a phenomenal first step. There's probably close to 300 police departments in the state of New Jersey that have the New Jersey Chiefs Association accreditation. There's only a handful, probably less than 5, that have the CALIA accreditation, and I certainly think that's a short to medium term goal for me.
Right, and I think the thing that people don't understand, or maybe it's a subtle point, this is not a report that gets filled out and thrown in a drawer. This is the creation of an ongoing process, because every single day the department is maintaining accreditation by keeping the evidence that they're operating according to the policy. So, this is a major change in culture and process, which is thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple. How long did it take to get to this point? Like weeks?
When did you start, Director? That's what I was going to ask about.
Well,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sean and I started on March 15th our positions, and we started accreditation on March 15th.
Now, Alexis, so the officer in charge, had this started it before
She
you
did.
guys got there, right?
She was in the, right, in the process of, updating all the, the policies. So,
And they needed to be updated because they weren't updated for at least 3 years, correct?
in various stages they were. I think Sean and I, were a force multiplier to Lieutenant, Chambrello.
Oh, no, I'm not
She had a
saying-
lot on her, she had a heavy workload there before Sean and I, arrived.
I'm just saying, is it fair to say that they were way behind in where they should have been? And that's
Well, they
nothing to do with Lieutenant Chambrello,
That's correct. Well,
okay?
the-
Next question. You didn't ask for any extension, did you?
did I?
From Clear, not from Clear, from the state, there was no extension needed, was there?
No.
You didn't need any help from the Rogers Group or any outside agency to come in and tutor you and hold your hand, did you?
Well, the township had contracted with the Lexipol, which was formerly the Rogers Group, to provide those policy updates. So those policies were being updated. I had to go back, and we had to go back, and we had to do a little more updating. So there was assistance there, by Lexipol. Yes.
And my final question is, the people that were working on inside the department were the same people that were there 3 years ago trying to get this process moving forward, correct?
Except for Sean and I, correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
So now that we have this, and again, this was always the number one priority coming in. What's the next big thing you're working on? I think I know, but tell us.
Well, as outlined in Chief Falzerano's report, you as the committee, long-term residents of this community, where our police headquarters is located. It's just it's in a flood zone. It's just not conducive for the police department to be dealing with multiple emergencies in the community during a flooding event, and then at the same time having to deal with our building being 2 to 3 feet underwater. And this has been a long identified problem. It seems like over the last decade, the flooding events have been increasing. When was the last one? 2021, I believe. So I'd really like to start, beginning to take a look at our options there for, police headquarters. I think it's time. I think Chief Falzerano has made that recommendation, and I think that's a long-standing, issue we need to address.
And currently, you're looking at, I would assume, what the capacity of the facility would look like. I mean, coming out of accreditation and getting all the processes and everything done, parking, equipment, communication, all that stuff, because we have to identify a property, and it's obviously has to fit the requirements of what the PD needs.
Yeah, that's correct. But I do think the piece of property is going to obviously drive the ultimate square footage, and obviously, the design. If it's a smaller footprint, are we going up, a story? If it's a larger piece of property, a single floor, building. My background in with Morris County, when we built the public safety complexes, we identified the property first, and that gave us an idea of what we had to, to work with. Because you tend, when you design these buildings, you start here, but where do you end up? Here, for various reasons. It could be the property restrictions, cost, et cetera. So I think that's really the first step that I would like to see us take.
Okay. And Joe Vooch is engaged?
He will, like,
Yeah, okay. Joe Vooch, our engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, Director and I have been talking of getting a subcommittee together and drafting a RFQ for architectural study.
Mhm.
So these are the beginning steps of where we need to go. And obviously, we'll evaluate properties that the township currently owns, and then evaluate vacant properties throughout the town also.
Yeah, and I know we'll get to it later. This is something also that is in our long-term capital budget plan. Great.
And we will pursue grants. There are grants out there for police stations. We did apply for one. Unfortunately, we didn't get that one, but there are others.
Yeah, I think we could potentially take some look, hopefully, at some federal grants that are focused on, mitigation of, public facilities. I think we might be a good fit given our, propensity to flood all the time.
Okay. All right. Well, great.
Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Comments? So please, thank you. Thank you. And please thank everybody, all the officers.
Yes,
in the
sir.
police
Again, all the officers, had a hand in this. We might have needed a proof from our evidence officer, Sergeant Thompson, and we had to, to go to him. We might have needed some assistance from our detective bureau, Detective Reese, Detective Novotny, on producing a proof for, criminal investigations. And, certainly want to thank Lieutenant Chambrello, Lieutenant Marcheski, and, everybody in the department. It was a, team effort. We just had to bring all the pieces to the puzzle together.
Well, let's just do the timeline. You've been here less than 3 months. And here we are.
Thank you for the opportunity and the support.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If I could, next on the agenda, the Long Hill Township K-8 Board of Education has kindly come here this evening. I think they're going to give a presentation.
Consent.
If I could, Miss Robin, and I apologize, is Bomer or Bamer? Bomer. And Business Administrator George Alexis, School Superintendent.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Good evening,
Good evening.
and thank you for inviting us here. We're happy to be here, and we also, just going to take this. We're pleased to share the budget with you and with the wider community through the broadcast. We're pleased with the way the budget came together this year. The process starts probably as early as September or October and continues throughout the year until we have it approved in early May. Our budget for next year is, and this is what we're proud of, it's student-centered, it's strategically aligned, and it's fiscally responsible. Now, before Robin Bomer steps forward and shares the presentation and gives you some of the numbers and details, I just want to emphasize a few highlights. First, the budget is aligned with our district and board goals and with our district's strategic plan. We've prioritized the instructional needs of our students and the professional development of our staff. We have added a STEAM teacher at the middle school for next year, a full-time teacher, and this is the first time that we've had a full-time STEAM teacher. In the past, there was a part-time teacher there at the middle school. So we're excited about that, and we've also made a significant investment in instructional resources. We had introduced an instructional platform called iReady earlier this year, and we were able to work it into the budget for next year. And we're pleased with that to continue. We also have an instructional consultant to help us with the multi-tiered systems of support, initiative, and intervention process. Likewise, the budget includes a significant investment in technology. This year, we were able to take some of the existing funds and bring our second graders into the one-to-one program where they previously were not. So right now we have full implementation of the one-to-one device with grades 2 through 8. And for next year's budget and the year after, we have our sights set on our youngest learners, our kindergarten and first graders, and we have a plan to purchase iPads over the next 2 years so that we have full implementation for the entire district, which is important with the instructional iReady platform that I mentioned. We also found a way, and I was pleased about this, to continue our Summer Institute. This was a program that started. It's designed as an intervention program to help students who may need additional support over the summer, and it was started when the Art Besser funds came out. When those expired and we had spent all of them, we were concerned we wouldn't be able to run it, but we found a way to continue that, and that's starting in a couple of weeks. Also in the budget, and we're excited about this too, we have funds reserved to transform the Millington Media Center and also an outdated technology room at the middle school into flexible learning spaces that are going to support inquiry-based learning, collaboration, and creative problem solving. And we have a new website that's in our budget to enhance our communications, to enhance our digital footprint in the community and beyond. And that will be rolled out later this summer. We've pursued shared services opportunities. We have an ESY, an extended school year program over the summer that begins in about 2 weeks. And we're doing that in collaboration with Watchung, so they'll be sharing in some of the expenses and costs. We'll be hosting it here, but their students will be joining in the program along with ours. And we also are pursuing a shared service with Hudson Way Immersion School, which we are looking forward to. Another way that we've tried to maximize our budget dollars is through accepting tuition-paying students. So we have a new special education class at Gillette School, a self-contained class, and we had additional spaces. So we sought out tuition-paying students, and we were pleased when Somerset Hills sent us a student earlier this year, and that student will be continuing next year. And now we're anticipating the enrollment of another student from Somerset Hills. So we're excited about that. Cost savings and being able to provide that kind of service to our neighboring districts. It's been a complete team effort, and we have some board members here this evening. We have some of our staff here, and I want to thank and recognize the board, its finance committee for their hard work on this, certainly Mrs. Bomer and the business office and technology staff, and our entire administrative leadership team for all their efforts and for creating a budget that's designed to advance student learning. And with that, I'll turn this over to Robin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'd like to present the final school budget to you. The budget was presented at our March meeting. That was the tentative budget for the board approval, and then submitted to Morris County Superintendent for her approval. It was advertised to the public on April 25th, and it was adopted by our board on May 6th. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our Long Hill board members and all those who sit on our finance committee, as they are an integral part of our budget process. Every school district's budget is a thoughtful plan of that community's values and priorities. Budget planning starts for us in early November with the need to project what's going to occur as of June 30th, 2025. We used our very best efforts to anticipate at that point in time where the district will finish in 20 months. This year, we held budget meetings with our admin team and supplied them with budget worksheets and historical budget data from which they provided us with their proposed budgets in January. Additional information is then added and refined by myself, Mr. Alexis, and our finance committee. In addition, outside sources such as our insurance advisors, our auditors, state sources, and consultants are consulted in order to arrive at the budget that we're going to view tonight.
Hey,
This-
Megan, I'm sorry if I could interrupt you.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're looking at slides, maybe we do want to get rid of that. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, good?
Yeah.
Okay. This slide shows the audited budgeted per pupil amounts of neighboring districts as well as those in Morris County that have 751 or more enrollment. Long Hill is nicely positioned within the grouping, neither over or underspending districts of similar size within our area.
How do you calculate that number?
That is not a calculated number by me. It comes off the newjersey.gov site. It's the Taxpayer's Guide to Educational Spending.
Okay, so they calculate
They
it.
calculate it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And do you know the formula for it?
It's involved.
Okay.
But there's a whole bunch of calculations. If you go to the NJDOE website, on the right-hand side, you'll find a whole bunch of ways that they calculate per pupil spending.
Well,
But this is one
We're in a good
of
place
them.
there. We're kind of like
We're right in the middle.
right in the middle
It's
on
nice.
on the lower end of the mid. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's nice.
Yeah, not overspending, not underspending. That I think we're very good.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you said there's a formula involved. the simplistic way to look at it would be the total operating budget divided by the total number of students, and that's clearly not what's happening there.
No, go to the website and take a good look, and they'll show you everything that is calculated in that to come up with those figures.
Thank you.
The total school budget for 24-25 is $22,938,909, which includes 3 capital projects, which Mr. Alexis has discussed, and which I'll discuss a little later. This slide provides a detailed representation of costs as they are submitted to the New Jersey Department of Education in the budget software system. I'd like to highlight a few of the categories. The first one that you see is for our general programs, which the state calls regular programs instruction. It includes regular education teachers in kindergarten through 8th grade, substitutes, class coverage costs, regular ed home instruction, instructional staff travel, instructional supplies, textbook, and it also includes curricular items for the K-5 programs. The special education instruction section includes salaries for teachers in learning language disabled, behavioral disabilities, resource room, and preschool. It also includes things like special ed home instruction and related supplies. If you skip down a few, that out-of-district tuition includes public and private special education out-of-district tuition, and this is offset by IDEA funding. This year's out-of-district tuition is presently calculated at $1,073,000, from which we are required to subtract the anticipated IDEA funds of $191,000.
What is IDEA?
Give me a hint.
Well,
What's it?
Special education law.
What does
Okay,
it
yeah,
stand
yeah.
for, though, again? With disabilities and education, right?
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And your salaries for teachers, that's in regular programs?
Yes, regular programs and special ed programs,
Yeah, okay.
depending on what they're teaching.
Yeah.
If you skip to the second column, midway down, transportation services, that includes our busing, but it also includes routing software, aid and lieu payments. Regular education transportation is approximately, I forgot the number in here. And it also includes special education transportation. So transportation is all of our transportation. And then we have the employee benefits right under that. That includes pension, Social Security, Medicare, that group life insurance, our health care, tuition reimbursements, and cash incentives for medical waivers.
Thank you. Can I ask a quick question? On transportation services, you said it includes special needs transportation.
Yes.
How much of the 1.2 million
Is special ed transportation?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I don't have the breakdown here for that, but I can get that for you.
that would be great.
Yep.
And then employee benefits, I remember a few years ago, the then superintendent reported that the family health plan was about $42,000 a year.
This year it's about 47.
Bloody heck.
Yeah, 47 if they're in the in the Horizon 1525 plan, and about 45 if they're in the Educator's Health Plan.
Is there an option if a new teacher starts, they have to be,
They have to be in the Educator's Plan. If it's a brand new teacher to our district, they go into Educator's Plan. We do have about 40 teachers who are still in the old plan. That.
And to be fair, I mean, from back then to today, there's a significant contribution that comes from the employee based on salary.
It's
Whereas
based
back
on,
then,
it's
it was
it's
not.
right, it's based on salary in the Educator's Plan. Our contract also has it that if they're in the 1525 plan, it's supposed to be Chapter 78, which is a percentage of premium, but our teacher's contract it defines that also. It is that it can be no more than 5% of their single salary, 6.5% of their parent-child salary, or 9.5% of family coverage
Oh, really?
salary.
Okay, so it is different than what the state employee pays. The state
It
employee
is.
will pay.
It is a contract. Yes, it is. It is something that they negotiated into the contract.
Fair enough. I would say 45 whatever it is, thousand, if you work for the state of New Jersey and you're above $100,000, you pay a third of that. You pay 15.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The last one I want to look at is the final one, the debt repayment. So the district issued bonds in 2012 and 2014. The 2012 bonds were retired in 2024. The 2014 bonds were refunded through the issuance of 2021 refunding bonds, and these bonds are repaid with payments of principal and interest every year in July and January.
How long do you think it'll be till that gets paid off?
2029.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the next graph, the pie chart, shows expenditures as a visual representation of the budget expenditures. And you'll note that 88% of the district's expenditures are allocated to fixed and contractual costs, encompassing salaries, benefits, maintenance and operations, transportation, special education tuition, and debt service.
I'm sorry. So the blue wedge is what?
So the big blue wedge is salaries, right?
Okay.
The
and next,
light
the
blue
orange.
is special ed.
Yep. The orange
right?
is benefits.
Uh-huh.
Makes sense. And then the gray is maintenance and ops. Okay.
Right.
I'm seeing it now. I'm a little
Right.
bit.
So what it really comes down to that we only have 12% that is variable, that we can spend. Everything else is already pretty much part of the budget. Not a lot we can do about it.
And what makes up that 12%?
That the 12% then is your classroom supplies, your textbooks, all those variable things.
Yeah.
We
Is that
listed
like
as
other expenses?
other expenses and what else?
Capital.
That it's little sections in here. Some capital outlay.
Yep.
Seven. Yep.
All right. Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in the budgeting process, once expenditures are determined, it is time to turn to revenues, or how are we going to fund those expenditures? In every budget, we make sure that revenues match expenditures.
Can you go back one slide real quick? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
When do you know what the state aid is?
The state aid is announced in February with the governor's address.
It's a little different on the municipal side. For anybody who's going to ask why is the municipal budget not passed, because we are dependent on the state budget.
Yeah, we all hold our breaths on that. We get the budget as close as we can, and we hold our breath in February to see where it comes. That. So let's look at our revenues in the following chart. The sources of revenue in any district are limited. The local tax levy is the primary source of funding in Long Hill, representing 81% of the operating budget. This is the amount in dark blue. This does not include capital projects. This year, state aid, represented by the light blue, comprises 6.2% of the district's revenues. Following the governor's address in February, we were awarded an additional $155,000 in state aid over last year. The next highest source of revenue is the use of our own fund balance, which is $336,361. The amount of fund balance plugged into the 24-25 budget is derived from excess surplus generated from the 22-23 budget. This means that some combination of cost savings or unexpected additional revenue occurred in 22-23. While we always hope to finish a year with excess surplus, it is not reasonable to believe we can generate this amount of money each year, and therefore we don't want to become reliant on fund balance for the payment of salaries or benefits, as it's not likely to be sustainable in the long term.
And where is fund balance on this?
Fund balance is do you see the little purpley, little tiny one, like two from the bottom?
Yeah.
The light pink?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How much is in the surplus?
Surplus isn't here. Fund balance is here. Fund balance is $336,000. So at the end of the year, when we have surplus, we're able to put some into capital reserve, some into maintenance reserve, and then we designate some to go back into a budget to get returned to the taxpayer.
Is it a target for how much is considered, like, say you have a $22 million budget or whatever it was, 23, I guess. Is there a minimum that is, like your auditor, does he sit with you or she and say, this is the number you should target?
Yes, the auditors are great. The auditors work with us 100% on that. They come up with what the actual excess balance is, and then we look at it and say, how much do we need in cap reserve? I'm trying to keep a certain amount every year so that we can always do projects and keep our buildings up to date. There's a certain amount I want for maintenance reserve, right? And at that I am limited on. It can only be a certain percent of my comprehensive maintenance plan. So I'm limited on that. And the rest would go into fund balance. I am trying to keep fund balance right around 300,000. That's a sustainable number for us. When you get much higher than that, you don't know that you can sustain it, that every budget is going to come up with that much in excess balance. If I get below that, that means that I have to find some way to come up with that money. That means we have to cut something, right? Find some program or a salary or something that we're going to cut 300,000 out. So that you don't want to do either. So the 300,000 mark is a really nice mark for Long Hill.
Makes sense. What's your fiscal year, by the way? You're not calendar year, right?
No. July 1st to June 30th.
Got it. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I didn't tell you about the other ones we got on fund balance, and let's go back a slide. Okay, so another source of revenue is anticipated federal aid of $272,000, which includes our title money and our IDA money. The IDA is what we spoke of before. The federal initiatives help us improve basic programs, such as development of teachers and principals. It supports multi-language learners, and it provides funding for special education tuition and services. The combined tuition, transportation, fees, rentals, and miscellaneous income line is $495,000, and it includes things like preschool tuition, facilities rental, subscription busing fees, anticipated insurance dividends, and interest earned at the bank. This year and most years, we do not budget extraordinary aid. That extraordinary aid is not budgeted because it's not guaranteed. That's just something that we get.
Can I ask you a question about the subscription bus service? What percentage of the students, you're roughly 850? I forget what it is now.
How many students we have? 855.
855. What percentage take the bus, and what percentage of those, or what number, I could do this?
Our subscription.
Correct.
I can't tell you how much. I can tell you I budgeted about $50,000 for subscription busing at 900 a family. One of the things with subscription busing is that our free and reduced lunch population, which is increasing, gets free subscription busing. So I brought the number down this year from last year because that number has gone up. So seats are going to be taken by some of these children who don't have the resources.
I know there was that little period of time when folks took to social media complaining about the transportation bus.
Yeah.
Has it gotten better?
It's
or I don't know
yes,
if it's right.
yes, it is significantly better. The bus drivers seem to have blended in and become part of our community. We had families calling at Christmas to find out the name of the bus driver. They want to get them a little gift. That part is all good. There's always things that you can work on. We actually have a meeting with the busing company next week. There's always something. And we're working on it. Hopefully it's getting better. They promised us for next year, we have the same busing company, that next year they were going to try to hold the same bus drivers. So part of the problem in the beginning was it was a brand new company coming out to little tiny Long Hill, and I swear most of the bus drivers didn't even know where Morris County was, much less Long Hill. And it took them just a while to figure out where they were, where the streets were, and when a road is flooded, how do you get around it to get the kids, to the other side? I mean, sometimes they just got lost.
To be fair, I haven't seen any noise on Facebook in quite some time, so I assumed it was a good answer.
Yeah, well, we're trying. The problem that we have right now is subs. When a driver calls out, and again, then they send us a sub who we're trying to help them find Morris County, much less Long Hill. It just takes a while, but.
A little to your story, Oak Flower, the new brewery, well, it's been there for
Yeah.
some time now. They were selling hats for a brief period, and it says Oak Flower, obviously. But it also on the front says, "I know where Long Hill is."
There you go.
So.
You know what? I may go over there and I'm going to grab some from our drivers.
That's right. You should buy them some hats and give it to the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so on this slide, the district will be funding 3 capital projects, the funds for which will be taken out of our capital reserve and has no impact at all on our tax levy. The capital reserve account is where money is set aside specifically to support the district's long-range facility plan. The 3 projects that we're going to be doing this summer are the replacement of the Gillette School fire alarm system, that transforming the instructional space at Millington Library, and the renovation of a room at Central Middle School into a versatile multi-use space catering to the diverse needs of our students and facilitating a variety of educational activities and events. Again, it's going to be $1 million in projects, no impact on tax levy, and that's because of our excess fund balance that we're able to put aside. So, where does that put us financially? The district is not utilizing any adjustments or waivers in this budget, and the district has $107,000 in banked cap from prior years that we're not utilizing, which means that we could have gone over the 2% in tax, and we chose not to. The 2% tax levy increase over the 23-24 budget is approximately $362,000. So how do we calculate a tax levy? The tax levy is derived by dividing the total tax levy of $19,312,573 by the assessed valuations which are provided by Long Hill Township. This amount is then multiplied by the average assessed home value that is also provided by the township. For the average home having an assessed value of $596,357, this will equate to an additional $220.12 per year. It's important to note that the average assessed valuation of a home in Long Hill increased from the 23-24 school year. The total tax levy increase, as we said, was $362,000 over the prior year. For the average home having an assessed value of $596,357, that's going to equate to $18.34 per month.
So the 220 is based on, well, we'll say $600,000 assessed value.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. It's clear. Thank you.
Yes? Okay, I love this slide. This graph presents a historical look at the tax levy over the past 15 years. You'll notice that the last 4 years, the tax levy has consistently been at a 2% rate. And again, it's at a 2% rate. That makes it very nice. The green bar there is my goal, that we are going to keep the tax levy always within that bar so that we're being fiscally responsible to our community. And yet still providing everything that the school needs and supporting our students.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, because we're following the same principle.
Yeah, I think it's just a great model.
Because you never want to be in a position where you have to catch up later, because then you have that big jump that...
Right. Well, that's what you see. You see on the lower ones, and then look what happened. We don't want to do that.
No, it's terrific. Thank you.
And thank you for your continued support of our education of our children. Any questions?
I just have a couple.
Sure.
What was the program Mr. Alexa said about the immersion school you guys doing with them? The Hudson Immersion School?
Oh, we've been in talks with them because they want to increase the number of older students in their program. So they are hopeful that they can send us some 6th grade students that we can provide science instruction for, and then they in turn would provide us with some cost savings and also provide us with an opportunity to have some Mandarin Chinese instruction for our students who are interested.
All right. This is probably a question for you. The pre-K program, I know a lot of young families have been talking about the pre-K program. Are you trying to expand that? Or I know you have an issue with space, correct?
We do have an issue with space, and there was a committee formed prior to my arriving here, and they determined that there really was not enough space. We are exploring other possible opportunities of expanding preschool, but right now we are limited by the space factor, but that exploration continues to go forward.
I'd imagine that program's capped almost immediately, correct?
It fills up very quickly,
Yes.
yeah.
And then my last question is, this could be for both of you, is it more cost effective to send kids out of district or to hire somebody just to help with that a specific student. So sometimes the transportation to get a kid from here to wherever they're going might be more expensive than even hiring an employee.
The transportation's a small part of it. What's the real cost is the amount of tuition for some of these out-of-district placements. But philosophically, it's always better to keep as many students in your district, in the home district, and in the least restrictive environment. It's not always possible.
understand that.
But I will say that over the course of the last several years, and we continue to move in this direction, the number of out-of-district placements continues to decrease to a number that's more consistent with, for a district this size.
Thank you, sir.
So we continue to work on that.
Thank both of you.
You good? Yeah?
No.
So if I could, I want to thank Business Administrator Bomer and Superintendent Alexis. And a number of members of the school board. We've looked forward to this for a number of years, and we really appreciate you coming in. I think we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad we could come.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, we're going to be doing our budget presentation after a couple bits of business. Please stick around for that. I'm
If
really
you can.
pleased to see
You've got
that
an early day.
our numbers line up pretty well. I'd say the one difference will be, since you're on a fiscal year, the slice of the pie for the overall levy is going to be a little bit different because we're doing it from January 1st to December 31st. But philosophically, I can tell we're aligned with the same way of thinking. I really like that green bar because that's the principle that we're following as well.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yeah,
I know
thank
the
you.
residents appreciate this.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Yes, it was.
That was nice.
Okay.
I'm just getting this, sorry.
Thank you. Don't feel, I know Deputy Mayor Lavender put you on the spot there. If you need to leave, please, feel free. Okay, so page 2. We're on to ordinance, right?
No, you go.
There we are.
These are all first.
Ordinance, first reading, 54124, model ordinance to exceed municipal appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank. This is always a fun one every year. It sounds more complicated than it really is, so I'll turn it over. Well, I think I should turn it over to you, no, Randy?
Yeah, that's fine. So what this ordinance does is allows us to go to a 3.5% appropriation cap. The current allowable cap by the Division of Local Government Services is 1%. So this will give us an additional 2.5%. Not that we intend to use the 2.5%. You'll see in the budget projections, we have used some of previous bank numbers to come in line with the budget requirements. However, this is just a safety mechanism for future if something were to come about disastrous before the budget's adopted and we need to increase our appropriations. This is where this would come into play.
Yeah, and can you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a rolling 3-year, I think, and so whatever was 4 years ago rolls off, and the 15 years I've been fortunate enough to be up here, the Township Committee has never used the cap bank.
Yeah, this cap bank is a 2-year.
2-year roll?
Revenue, the tax cap bank.
Gotcha.
Is a rolling 3-year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the Township Committee? This is only first reading, no questions? Megan, can you take?
Motion.
Oh, I thought I had new authority tonight, no? Can I have a motion to pass ordinance 541-24 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes, carried. Second reading will be July 17, 2024. Next ordinance, ordinance 54224, first reading, introduction, salaries and wages ordinance. I don't know if you wanted to add any color. You probably made a few adjustments.
Yeah, this ordinance is only making one adjustment. It's adding the title police officer trainee, the salary of $35,000 to $42,000. This would allow the police department to open interviews for candidates who are not certified through one of the many police academies in the state of New Jersey. So it would allow us to hire somebody at a lower rate and send them to the academy at the town's expense, hence the lower rate. So this is setting up for that possibility if we should need it.
And Randy, I know we had a conversation previously. This is something that's, I think, becoming relatively common throughout the state as the need for law enforcement officers.
Yeah, I'm gonna age myself here. This was the common practice when I started, actually, because they didn't have the training program that individuals could go to. So this is, if you're talking to older finance officers, this is the norm. Then they came with the program where you can send yourself to the academy and pay for it yourself and get a degree, if you will, through the academy and become a certified licensed officer, well, this year licensed officer. And then the towns would grab you out of the academies because now we save 6 months. We don't have to pay for the academy. And this was working out very, very well until these last couple of recent years. You may have heard there was a lot of shortages of certified police officers. And now towns are starting to look at these options to get a wide variety of candidates that can potentially be great candidates and then send them to the academy and then go from there.
That's great, Randy. I appreciate it. Any questions for Randy? For Director Peoples, he's here, but I don't, just, Vic, you good? Good. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance 542-24, first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchio?
Yes, also carried, or I should say, second reading will be July 17th. Ordinance 543-24, first reading again, establishing a construction records clearance certificate and supplementing and amending Chapter 29 of the Township Code entitled Uniform Construction Code and Construction Requirements. Jack, you want to take this one?
Sure, Mayor. This ordinance requires anyone selling his or her house to get a clearance certificate from the construction office, and the purpose is to make sure that all construction permits have been closed out and that final inspections have been conducted.
I must say, I'm a little surprised that didn't already exist.
I agree. It came up once before and the Township Committee decided not to do it.
It actually is helpful to the resident and the property owner.
Absolutely, and the buyer.
Yeah,
And
just-
I'd like to make a shout out to Denise Murphy, who kind of brought this forward to Jack and I.
Okay. That was, okay, now I'm.
Yeah.
So all the realtors are happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Saves
just,
them a lot.
Yeah, because nobody, I mean, we hear all the time from somebody who either bought a house and somehow it slipped through the cracks and they have open permits that they had nothing to do with. We hear from residents who all of a sudden are told they have an open permit and they are pretty certain they have in fact closed them. So this will keep everything up to date.
Absolutely.
Vic,
No, I like it.
any other? All right, I'm getting, what is that? What does that mean?
means carry on, my friend.
Carry on, all right. I'm looking for a motion to approve 542, what it was, I said earlier.
So moved.
I'll second it then.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchio?
Yes. Now, ordinance 544-24, an ordinance concerning police department discipline procedures and amending Chapter 2 of the Township Code entitled Administration. That sounds foreboding, but, and I'm going to steal a little of Jack's thunder. This simply is removing duplicative language that's already covered by the state statute, I believe. But I'll turn it over to you, Jack.
That's one of the two purposes, Mayor, and it was at the recommendation of Director Peoples, and it's a good idea because of the state law gets amended and our ordinance doesn't render inconsistent, and the state law prevails anyway. The second purpose was, and this is something we would have done in any event, was to change the hearing officer and the person who chooses the hearing officer to the appropriate authority.
Fair enough.
And then the appropriate authority can retain the hearing officer. The hearing officer then makes a recommendation, which the appropriate authority will send along with his recommendation to the township committee for final action in the case of major discipline. It really doesn't make any substantive changes, it's more procedural.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions for Jack?
Yeah, I have a Jack, where it says, obviously, I guess used to be, in our ordinance, used to be the chief of police would do that.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, we had a chief of police today. Would that make a difference, or there still should be the appropriate authority?
It still should be the appropriate
Okay.
authority.
All right, so it's nothing to do with the position. It should always be the appropriate authority.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. And I know item number 6 is the budget presentation, but what we're going to do is jump ahead to do the consent agenda for people that may have to leave. Before we start, I'm going to pull 24-175 for further discussion. Any other ordinance, I should say, resolution that needs to be pulled, or any abstentions? Hearing none. Up.
We want to do this first? Accept the resignation? because
Well, we're going to be quick,
we're
right?
appointing somebody, so just in order. Probably want to do that first, adopt that one first. So have him come and go.
Well, all right, so if I can have OEM Director Joe Hubert come to the mic. I don't think he knew I was going to ask him to come to the mic. Sorry. If I could,
Hello, Joe Hubert, OEM Director. Outgoing.
I say the jokes. Scott, did you want to say? a
I
few
yield
words?
my time. Is that what you're supposed to say?
You yield your time. That's what you should say.
No, Joe, on behalf of the committee, and I know when Mike Peoples came on board, you and I talked right away, and I know this job has been a lot of work for you. And, you know, you've got a real life and a professional career and stuff like that, and, you know, so I know you want to get back to that. And I was absolutely amazed at the amount of rigor and process you put into the OEM position. I'm just dumbfounded that every time it rains, Joe can tell within about 1/5 of an inch where we are in terms of flooding. And I am not exaggerating. He has historical information. He has a spreadsheet tool. He knows by looking at the Millington River gauge what our risk is. And it has been just absolutely instrumental in getting the police department and the DPW aligned to go into emergency mode if we have to. And Joe has been dead accurate every time. And I just think that's a phenomenal job. And I know it was a lot of work for you. And I've attended some of your meetings. I think they're very thorough and everything. And I know you're pleased that now that's in Mike's hands and he can take that load off your back. We appreciate the fact that you're going to stay on as a deputy OEM director. But thank you so much. You definitely raised the bar.
And wasn't his first day or first week with a major flood?
Yeah.
First
no,
week,
no,
yeah,
hold on
right.
a second. We have to reality here. What you've
Thank
done
you.
is invaluable for the groups that Deputy Mayor Lavender just said, but also to our first aid squad, our OEM, our CERT, and our fire companies, because that helps them prepare if they have to move vehicles into certain sections of town. So what you did, the blueprint you are providing for Director Peoples is phenomenal. And no, it was not a week, Joe. It was 24 hours.
That's short.
We flooded
Yeah.
the next day.
Yes, it was within 24 hours. Absolutely. I have to take accountability for that. But thank you for all the kind words, and I do thank everybody up here. I've worked with every one of you in some capacity over the years, and you'll be in good hands. Spoke to Mike Peoples, John Brown already, so made some good progress. And we have more to do in the transition. But as you say, I'll be, coming on as a deputy, or joining as a deputy back to the same team there. So there should be a pretty seamless transition, and that's all I have. Thank you, everybody. Especially do want to call out a few people from the first responder community. Shane Daly, first and foremost, Linda Olmsted for a little bit there and Larry Fast. They were very instrumental in my transition on and kind of maintaining continuity over my tenure. And they passed along to me a lot of good information and good practice. So that was very helpful. And also, obviously, all of our first responder department heads every one of them has been great. Al Gallo, Chief Naga when he was here, Lieutenant Giambrillo when she was officer in charge, Lieutenant Marcheski continues to always be a valuable resource. So all those, and Bob English over at First Aid Squad, pretty much everybody in town that I've worked with has been great. So keep up the good work from my standpoint, and thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And you're still in the role until middle of July, right?
Yes, effective is 15 July or something. I think it's
Right,
written.
because I think you've got some reports with the state that you're gonna mop up or something, so.
But staying on as deputy director in a volunteer role.
Yep,
Cool.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe.
fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, so we'll put it back in 24-175. Any other resolution that needs to be pulled?
I need to abstain from 164.
164, okay. Vic, you good?
Good.
Scott?
All good.
All right, so looking for a motion, 24-24159 to 24-176. Committeeman Dorsey's abstaining from 164. That's it. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Should we go right now back into the budget presentation?
Yes.
We're going to do that. Last year, I know we did it from out there, but we're going to do it from the dais this time.
Right, okay.
Does
All
that
right.
sound okay? Do you want me to give a quick overview, and then we'll get into the granular stuff?
Yeah, first, Megan, if you can share my screen, and you can take that little, there you go, take that little box out. I'm good like that. Or do I need to do
That is the state award-winning photograph by Mr. Ed Zindel.
There we go. Beautiful. All right.
So we'll give a quick
Yeah,
overview.
go ahead.
All right, and much like the school board just did, and I do appreciate that chart that Scott complimented so much, so I'll give you a high-level overview before we get into the granular stuff. 15 years or so ago, we were just 3 years removed from what was 3 years earlier, a proposed 16% increase in the municipal budget. In the 15 years, much like was presented this evening, in the last 4 years, right? And you righted the ship, in my opinion. In the Township Committee, we've averaged about 1.6% per year, never exceeded the 2% budget, nor have we ever used the misleadingly titled cap bank. In addition, 15 years ago, we had 600,000 or so in municipal surplus. Today, we have north of 3 million. We also have 2 million plus in asset sale reserves. So if you total them, which I know you cannot, but I can, it's over $5 million. So we are in a very good position. We have no municipal bonded debt. You've corrected me in the past. And that's the situation we are now in. And a lot of work was put in by this committee and the committees that came before it, and by Randy, who was our CFO for many years, and now our CFO and administrators worked very, very hard on what we are about to present. Scott, do you go first, or does Randy?
I'll go first, and
Fair enough.
You know, Randy is the expert here, being the CFO. So real quick, let me just kind of briefly talk about what we're going to talk about. We'll give a second or two to just how the budget process works, what the timeline is. We'll talk about our financial report card. Then we'll get into the municipal revenue plan, and that in there we'll compare our 2024 to last year, 2023. We'll explain some of our local revenues. We'll talk about the overall tax levy for Long Hill, and split that down so you understand where your tax dollars are going. As everybody should know, the township administration collects all the taxes for all the different services that we have, not only municipal, but Long Hill Schools, Watchung Hill Schools, county open space and library. But we'll talk about the tax sources, what's going on with assessments, what the new rates are, and what our appropriations and spending is going into next year. Budget allocations by category and department, how we're funding things, and a little bit about our 6-year capital plan. So here's the process. Very similar to last year, I would say. You know, in the fall, the departments work on their budgets. As we get into the winter months, a preliminary budget is created by Randy, working with the department heads. In the spring, the committee gets involved reviewing and in discussions. We eventually sign off directionally on where things go. In June, we're in June now. We're doing the ordinance introduction and the public presentation. And then once we vote on that for first reading, we have to wait 30 days, right, Megan, to adopt as official.
Let me just add one thing to that. Once every 3 years, we have to get reviewed by the state of New Jersey. And so what we do is when the budget's introduced, we send all the paperwork down to them. They have to review it, hopefully before our public hearing and adoption date, and then they give us the blessing to adopt. This is our lucky year. So we will be sending everything down as soon as this is introduced, all the paperwork to them. They'll review it. They'll probably give us a report of things they want to see a little more about, and then we'll comply, and hopefully during that time, because this is actually a little longer than the 30 days, so we're going to give them a few extra days to get that approval done.
Right. And then one other thing that we should mention is every year our auditors go through the books, right? When does that happen?
That has happened already, and in fact, the auditor, the partner in charge of Long Hill, has reviewed the budget, and he and I talked about a couple of things, making some minor adjustments that it didn't affect the taxes or anything else, but there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with the budget for levy cap and some other caps, so we had to make a couple adjustments.
Right, and this presentation will be on the website, and people wake up tomorrow. And they can also go see the audit report as well, right?
Not yet.
Not yet?
They're finished with the audit. We haven't accepted the audit.
Okay.
As a
But that will
report.
be publicly on the website.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's get into the good stuff, the report card. Another good year. So we're looking at 3 different aspects of this. How we performed in 2023, where we're at in terms of financial reserves, and where we're at in terms of debt. So we budgeted 16.6 million last year, and that was an adjusted budget that occurred during the year, so it doesn't quite match exactly what was in our presentation last year. We did collect 17.8 million and spent 15.7, I'll say, is what we spent, which left us with 2.2 million over what we spent versus collected. And so, Randy, can you explain that 2.2 number?
Yeah, some of that will go directly into our fund balance, also known as surplus, and some of that will go into what's called the reserve budget for the following year. So approximately 956,000 of that 2.1 will go into the reserve budget. The other amount went directly into surplus.
Right, so that's like 1.9 in surplus, right?
Correct.
And that 1.9, just to be clear, 1.9 is in the 16.6 budgeted and comes out the other end again, along with the reserve. So we look at the financial reserves. We're going to take a 3-year view on this. In 2022, we were at 2.9 million, and that's, Guy, that goes back to the sewer sale. That was the big win that we had there. That's what fed that surplus, right?
Not all of it.
Not all of it, but some of it, most of it. Last January 1st, 2023, we saw that go up to 3.5, and this year we're at 3.2, 3.7, which is a very comfortable place to be. Our goal is to keep that somewhere just north of 3, right?
I want to give some context there. Back
Please
to
do.
those 15 years ago, we were struggling to keep it at $600,000 and $700,000. The auditor at the time said, "I'm not all that comfortable with you at this level." At this level, I think he thinks it's outstanding.
Right. And so what that does, that gives us optionality for projects in the future, things like a police department and other projects as well. If we look at the third metric, debt as a percentage of assessed value, and we're allowed to have up to 3.5% of the total assessed value of the town. What is that? If you look at all the properties in town, residence, commercial, business utilities, farmland, vacant land, and you look at the total assessments, that is $1.9 billion of assessed value. Now, if you think about it, we're allowed up to 3.5% of that to take on debt. We could technically issue bonds up to $65 million. We would never do that. That wouldn't be fiscally responsible. Our debt ratio is 0.111%, so 0.1%. Our goal is to keep that as low as possible. We may have to issue some debt at some point when we get to building a new facility for the police. By my assessment, we should not see that debt percentage go above 1%, right? So that is we're in an excellent position there. So green across the board. So now let's talk about the revenue plan. And this is where I'm going to lean on Randy a little bit. So, we're comparing 23 against 24, and you can see the modified 2023 budget was 16.6 last year. This year we're at 17. The year-to-year delta on that is 2.2% in terms of revenue we expect to bring in. Randy, could you kind of explain some of the details around this?
Sure. As you can see, what we try to do is come up with similar to what the Board of Ed did. We come up with what we need in order to operate the town. That includes salary and wages, it includes the pensions, includes benefits, includes operating, includes statutory expenses. And then we then look at the revenue and say, okay, what are we getting in state aid? And our state aid has been pretty flat. We have a little higher amount this year, but we're losing that next year. So that's going to be $140,000 roughly of extra state aid this year that we have not received in the past. But again, that's short-lived. So we take in all the grants and then come up with reasonable revenues. By rule of thumb, you cannot anticipate a higher amount of revenue than what you collected in the previous calendar year, unless there's contractual agreements or unless there's a reason why you can anticipate more. A good example is our cable franchise taxes, which we get in January. So we have that number already. One of them, unfortunately, we got a little less than last year, and one of them we got a little more. So that's where we would anticipate a little more. So going through the revenues, the revenue other than taxes is what we call local revenues, which will go on the next slide. And here it is. It breaks it all down into all those different categories. So we have various numbers. One of the things you'll notice right off the top is the ARPA funds, second tranche. That is from COVID monies. We got the first one last year and the second one, the first one in 2022, the second one last year. So that falls off this year. So the reserve for debt payment, that money last year was actually FEMA money that we got for the flooding of the police department. So that went, in last year's budget, went directly to pay off the debt issued for that renovations of the police department for the flood. One of the new things you'll see is the sale of municipal assets. This is money that we got from the sale of the sewer utility. The committee is very aware and keeps this money for capital projects. So for instance, we have $400,000 in this year's capital program to pay down debt for the fire engines. While we don't need $400,000 to keep, if you will, tax stability, we're only using $270,000. So we're very cognizant of that, and we'll move forward cautiously to make sure that that money goes for capital projects that that really was built from the capital, from the sale of the sewer utility that had some capital funds in it. So that's where that is.
So, so a couple of questions of clarification. So the sale of municipal assets, that 270, that's really a transfer from that lump sum that we got from the sewer, which is coming in to offset the loss of the discontinuation of the ARPA funds and that reserve for debt payment, but that's actually in there to offset the cost of capital for the fire trucks.
Correct.
Okay, and then the second thing, because I know there's been a thread of conversation on Facebook about construction code fees. And you and I had a conversation about that. I think the law is that the fees that we collect can only be used for the management of the construction office, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Any construction code fees, you cannot generate a profit from the construction code office. So we were actually losing money since I got here in 2018 on the construction code office. So taxpayers were subsidizing that office. So the township committee, along with the recommendation of the construction code official, raised some fees so that we can cover the cost of the construction code office. And it is not, and I read some of those concerns also. It's not a money pit. We don't increase these fees just to make money and use it to offset taxes. Every year, there's two reports that need to be filed with the state. One filed by the finance officer and also signed by the construction code official. And the auditors are also required to take a look at that and report to the state to see if any municipalities are making money off of the construction code office.
So net is that's closely monitored, it's audited, and we're in full compliance.
Correct.
Okay, all right, great. So let's take a look at the tax levy. Going back to George, when you were doing your numbers, because your numbers are on a fiscal year, offset by 6 months. Of course, our numbers are going to look a little bit different because we've got to normalize them according to Jan 1 to December 31. But roughly, we're in the ballpark because it works. We take a look at that pie chart. Every dollar that is taxed. Obviously, the school is the major expense in town, right? We have a lot of people assets that teachers and everything like that we have to pay for. The municipal tax is next at 24%. Watchung Hills, 17% goes there. Morris County, maintaining those roads and county assets that are within our borders, 11%. The library tax is required and open space tax is required. So the total tax levy this year is $43.8 million. If we look at the sources of that, and then we're going to just drill down into the municipal portion, the municipal tax levy of $10.6 million. 88% of that's driven by residential property taxes, 1.1 from commercial. Vacant properties, 95,000. Business, which is really, telephone poles and gas lines and things like that. Business utilities, about 25,000, and farming, about 27,000. So that's the pie chart as it winds up. Obviously, some of the things we need to do from a planning perspective is maybe get that commercial number up and take some of the burden off of our residents. And I think that's not lost on the committee, and it's something that we're especially focused on. We take a look at assessments, and this is a comparison against assessments between 2023 and 2024. And I want to make a point here. These are assessments. These are not based on what things are selling in the market. Everybody has heard stories in town about houses that are selling above their market price, above their assessed price. These are assessments. Assessments move at a regular rate. Markets fluctuate based upon how people feel, right? We take a look at the assessments in town. You can see that everything has gone up quite a bit. The year-to-year change for residential is about 2.8%. Commercial up a bit more at 4.5. Vacant land 9, and business utilities down a little bit, which kind of makes sense because those things depreciate, right?
And those numbers are given to us by the state of New Jersey.
They're given to us by the state of New Jersey. So when we take a look at, well, the allocation to the total levy, you can see how it's roughly the same year to year. You know, it goes down a fraction of a percent, it goes up a fraction of a percent, but it's pretty much balanced. Make sense?
It makes sense. If I could just add one thing, I think there's always a misunderstanding. You can double that number. You can make it 2, you can make it 4, you can make it 10 million. Well, let's just say we'll take the first example, double. That doesn't not mean your taxes go up double. Everybody pays the same rate. The increase is going to be based on the municipal tax increase, which we are about to get into, what the school tax increase is, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the assessed increase that residents should focus on.
Right.
It is the tax rate.
Right. And so let's talk about that. Municipal tax rates. Now we're going to look at the last 5 years, 2020 to 2024. Well, let's focus on 23 to 24. So the rate, the municipal taxation rate is 0.542% compared to 549 last year. It actually goes down 0.007. We look at the average residential assessment, and George, we match up directly on this, $596,000 compared to $578 last year. The average municipal tax on a house of that value would be $32.32, and the average residential municipal tax increase over the course of a year is an additional $49. So we kind of divide that by 12. I think we're getting into what,
About $4.50.
$4.50 a month. So the average municipal tax increase is 1.55%. And if you take a look at it, you know, last year it was 1.75%. That's in actual dollars, right?
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is the residential average assessment. So if you look back at the previous screen, there was a various percentages of increasing. So you see where the commercial and vacant land were higher as the total assessments. They're not going to have the same increase as the residential. They're going to have a slightly higher increase because, you know, while the assessed values is not 100% market value, the assessor, we have a reassessment every year. The assessor uses current usable sales as a tool to come up with as close to market value as possible. We never want to come up to, if you will, a true 100%, because if the market goes down, then there's a fluctuation of unbalanced assessments. But we are very close. I think we're at 97% of true value. So,
Right. There's a smoothing to it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, because we have a lot of new residents that have moved into town since we started doing this. About
Right.
10 years back, I don't remember the exact year, we went to annual assessments because we found that the percentage, with the state has a law, right, 70%, 70%, doesn't matter. We went to annual assessments, so, and the intent there was to stay ahead of, especially tax appeals. We were settling a lot of tax appeals. Jack remembers that. And the tax appeals have really dwindled down to none.
Exactly none.
Exactly
One
none.
was filed this year and it was withdrawn.
So
And I do want to.
it accomplished, I just want to finish,
Yeah.
put a point on that. There were 3 areas we were concerned with. Renovations that were done by permitted work, that maybe the assessment was not keeping up with what was appropriate. people who were doing non-permitted work, which means they weren't being taxed appropriately at all. And especially, we had so many tax appeals, and we wanted to limit those. So we went to an annual tax appeal with the vision that, in fact, it would limit and reduce the number of tax appeals. And Jack, I did not know that. So 0 is the number.
Yes.
Right. And the last point that I'll make here, and this is going back to Robin's presentation where she had that green strip where they're keeping it within that 2%. That's what we're trying to do here. We're going to put that green strip in next year and match up. So that 1.55 stays in that zone, which is the place to be. You never want to come in with 0. You don't want to be in a position where you got to catch up later on, and it's a very ugly situation, right? You think about it, that 1.55 is a lot less than what the rate of inflation was for, people who go to the supermarket and buying things or gasoline, or right? We're in a good spot there. So let's kind of look at the budget allocations by category. And Randy, this is where, I'm going to ask your help. But a lot of different categories here. Why don't you walk us through it?
Okay, so yeah, we kind of group these in similar to what the grouping for the school board does in different areas. The fund ordinance is simple. That's funding ordinances that have been approved for capital projects that include debt. This $400,000 specifically will be to pay down the debt that we issued, that we didn't issue, that we permitted to issue by bond ordinance for the fire engine, for the fire apparatus we bought. So this will reduce that obligation by $400,000 this year. Insurances are, all of our insurances are GIF costs or unemployment insurance or health benefit insurance. The library cost is the library tax and any additional monies that we would give the library for their operations. Employer pension costs is simply that's the police and fire pension costs and the public employees pension costs. Operating expenditures is for the operations in totality for the whole for the whole town. So from police services to court services to administration to street sweeping. Next one is the total salary and wages for the entire municipality. Utilities are exactly that, the street lighting, the electric, gas, natural gas, and obviously gasoline and fuel and diesel fuel. Tax reserve is also called, known as reserve for uncollected taxes. The municipality has that line item mostly for the people that do not pay taxes currently. So if you know your neighbor doesn't pay taxes, go yell at them. Only kidding. But we, as the deputy mayor mentioned before, we collect all the taxes for all entities. We have to give the entities 100% of their taxes. So anybody that doesn't pay taxes falls upon us to balance our books, if you will. That number there is the reserve to help us balance the books for people that don't pay taxes.
And that's not only the municipal share, that's also the schools.
That's everybody's share, the
Right.
county, school, open space, library, so it's everybody's share. DCRP is a newer pension, similar, I'm sure you've heard where the state has changed pension programs, changed pension plans. So this is where some of the people that don't meet the requirements to basically go into PERS, which is the Public Employees Retirement System, they'll go into DCRP. Solid waste disposal is, for recycling, the landfill, and the garbage pickup. Actually, we are very fortunate for this number because we exercised I think our final year, one more year. So we're exercising our extra years in our original contract. we are getting reports from other municipalities that are going out to bid for garbage services, anywhere from 15 to 25% increase in costs. So we were able to utilize our old contract and keep it at a flat level. So, you know, I would strongly urge the committee, if we have one more year to go, we'll optimize that and go another year. So that's huge. Capital improvements, again, that's for all our capital improvements that we'll talk about in a screen down the road. $1.6 million. It's down a little bit from last year because we were using the tranche money for capital projects. So we didn't want to use that for, similar to what the school is saying, we didn't want to use that for ongoing expenses, because then when it disappears, you have a hole in your budget. So that's why that's decreased this year. And grants, these are the grants that we know about right now. Last year, if you recall, we had 0 in the budget, and we ended up with 107,000. So as we get new grants and confirmation for those new grants, we'll add them into the budget as we go along through the year.
Okay. And then so this kind of drills down a little bit into how we're funding our departments and accounts. Do you want to just make some comments here?
Sure. The administration is basically all the departments that don't fall into the categories of public safety, which encompasses fire, rescue squad, municipal court, and police. Capital deferred charges are those capital programs and that funding of the ordinance that we talked about. Public Works will take on the public works, roads, buildings and grounds, the garbage that we just talked about. Library and education is the library expenses. Utilities and bulk purchases, that is basically all our utility costs for electric, gasoline, and so forth. Parks and recreation, I think self-explanatory. Health and human services, that's a category that has increased. We have a shared service with health with Bernard's, and also included in this is our new department of 2-3 years, or community services. So that falls under this category.
Okay. All right. And then lastly, our capital plan. And so there's a number of things that we funded for this year, building improvements, emergency equipment, DPW equipment, work on the roads, recreation, and some recreation equipment. But we're also looking out 6 years. And as you can see here, that one big number in there, 13.5 for future year funding, the lion's share of that, gentlemen, is what we currently are using as the placeholder for the police department. Right, and so that number will sharpen up as we get a little bit tighter on our plans, but you know, we're serious about moving that forward. Randy, you want to kind of drill into this a little bit more for folks?
Yeah, you know, we're going to have a more definitive plan presented, actually probably introduced at the next committee meeting. But again, building improvements would be anything involving any buildings and grounds throughout the town. Emergency equipment encompasses all the emergency affiliations, police, fire, 2 fire departments, rescue squad, DPW equipment, I think is self-explanatory. Road improvements, you know, why $1.22 million? You know, 400,000 doesn't go as long as it used to go. So we have an annual program of milling and repaving. That program is now about $500,000, and it will be $500,000 in this. And I'm sure people are in the audience and listening. What's the other? The other main project that's in this is Long Hill Road, which we have a DOT grant with. The best scenario I can honestly say might be a fall paving, but realistically probably next spring. Everybody's wondering about Northfield, that I didn't mention that. Northfield has been funded already. We are currently finishing up, and actually the plans are down, all the plans and paperwork are down at DOT, because it is a DOT project, for their approval, and then we'll be ready to go out to bid. Now, with that, there's always a contingency with roads. We just met with Public Service today that are gonna be doing new gas lines in town. Northfield is one of those streets that they want to do. So we told them today, you need to get in there yesterday. So they are rearranging their whole projection of work to put Northfield in front of the other roads that they're projecting. And we'll get more information out to the public as the time comes. But they're gonna fast track Northfield because they know we want to get this done. And we told them, look, we need to get this done this year. So they will be starting mid-July, end of July timeframe in Northfield. They'll be out there for approximately a month. So they're replacing the main pressured line with all the connections. And they'll be also checking with any vacant property owners to see if they are interested in having service. Obviously those property owners would have to pay for a connection. But we do have meetings with utility companies when we do road projects, and this came up pretty quickly and this is all, I'll call it COVID money still with the grants with Public Service. So they're eager to get started. They have their permits already in the process that they need to get from the state or other New Jersey entities, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that in July, and then pretty quickly after that follow through, providing the DOT doesn't have any issues with the plans. I think usually if there are any issues, they're very minor and we correct them pretty quickly.
So Randy,
So,
I have a question.
this year,
This may sound a little disingenuous, but the reality is utilities, when they dig up a road in any municipality, basically pay something or all towards the repair of that road.
correct.
Okay, so in this instance, they're going to dig up our road. So have we asked them if they can contribute a little bit for the good?
We
guys?
are talking to them about some of the other projects that will come up with a dollar amount of what it would cost them to refurbish this road,
Fair enough.
Northfield. And we may, we have choices. We could either collect money and
Understood.
offset
Which we have
ours.
in the past.
Or what we'll do is there's, I think, a couple roads that are on the fourth year moratorium. We'll have them, instead of paving half the road, pave curb to curb.
Exactly.
So we'll have a credit with that.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's what I was.
So
hoping you would say.
I think we're gonna move in that direction, because we don't wanna leave half-patched road. It's nicer to do the curb to curb in these
Absolutely.
things, so we may wanna go that route, but we'll keep you guys informed as we move along with this project.
And if I could just move on a little bit, I want to add a little context. Yeah, $400,000 doesn't go as far. You said long as far, or whatever you want to, word you want to use, as it used to, so hence that number. But to give a little perspective on that number, I don't know if it was 9 and 10 or 10 or 11, we didn't do any roads in town. And then for a number of years, we were at that $400,000 level. Yes, that's due to inflation, et cetera, but it's also due to prudent planning. We have put together a 6-year capital plan going back, I don't know how many years now. That's why that number can look like that, because we
Correct.
plan ahead.
Correct.
Thank you. Back to you.
So real quick, I just want to touch upon the recreation facilities, because one of the things that we've been talking about, there's money in here that we, for refurbishing the tennis courts out on Cantor Park. If anybody's been out there, they're in dire need of refurbishing, so that money's included in this year's capital budget.
Good. Well, that is the budget. So, yeah, I think we're so close to public session, maybe we hold off questions to that, because we got a few things before that.
Public session, people can ask a comment at
Yeah.
that point. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea.
And I will say, as the mayor's gonna announce, ask for a motion, the public hearing, this is no different than, similar to an ordinance, where there will be a public hearing on July 17th. So the budget, and this presentation will get on the website tomorrow. I can't tell you it will be on there when you wake up, like the deputy mayor said, but it will get on there tomorrow sometime.
Beautiful.
All right.
Any questions or comments for Randy
No,
from the committee?
well, I want to thank Randy for all the work he does. Randy, you're a great CFO.
Thank you.
And a gentleman, too. And I also want to, hold on, Matt. Let's see, there we go. I want to correct the record on something. I did, in consent, I did abstain from 24-168. I just went into.
For the record.
I went into mental lock on that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I just had one clarification, well, I don't know if it's a clarification. When Randy referenced Long Hill Road, I want to be clear, that's Long Hill Road where Mountain, Morristown, and Marsville Road intersect, east. That's what Long Hill Township owns. As you go west, that is a county road. So what we are referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Long Hill portion, which goes from the intersection I just referenced to Chatham. Okay, ready? So I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 24-158.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yeah.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes, committee reports. Matt?
Let's see, hold on. From the,
Mike?
oh, yes. Hang on. Al sent me from the fire department. So far this year, they've combined 102 calls. That's a significant amount. Oh, and both Sterling and Millington participated last week in the Firematics competition. It's like an Olympic event for volunteer fire departments at Bernard's. Obviously, they placed well in all 4 events. And then the new engine 22 will be in service in the next 2 weeks. So before the end of the month, one of the new engines will be in service, so keep an eye on it on the road. And that's it.
Beautiful.
Oh, wait, yes. Once again, the 2024 skin cancer screening, Monday, May 15th, 1 to 5, Fellowship Village in Liberty Corner. To make an appointment, please call 908-204-2520, and don't ask for Megan Phillips. Registration begins June 3rd. All you have to do is 18 years or older. So it's free skin cancer screening at Fellowship Village. Just register by anytime after last week. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott?
Planning Board, Tom Jones continues to lead the discussion on ordinance changes that will be sent up here for deliberation and hopefully change. So that work's ongoing. I know that Don Richardson, I believe he had met with HPAC. As you recall, we've met with Shade Tree, the Environmental Commission, and now HPAC, going through the master plan and getting their feedback on next steps and things like that. So we continue to socialize this and, prioritize these ordinance changes. And one of the things that Don and I were on the phone with, on a Zoom with Liz Lahaney, our planner, the other day. One of the things we do need to do is kind of take a look at ordinances that, may potentially slow down the variance process. We need to do some work there and, helping people get through that process a little bit quicker. So, stay tuned on that. That's something that we're definitely focused on. That's it.
That's great, Scott, and thank you, Tom and Don out there and the entire planning board. Vic?
All right. The rec liaison report. It's that time.
Wait a minute, you don't sound, the exuberance, something's missing here. The exuberance.
I'll get there.
Okay.
All right. Sterling Lake season has begun. Memberships are still available on Community Pass. Last Friday night, we hosted the Spring Lake Dance at Sterling Lake. We had 196 middle school students attend. A good time was had by all. They danced the night away listening to the sounds of our DJ RTX Extreme.
Thank you to our chaperones. This event would not happen unless we have plenty of chaperones. Thank you to CERT for helping with traffic control. We can't tell you how much we appreciate having you there. Thank you to our police department, who routinely came by all through the night. We were even able to coax Officers Croker and Napolitano into doing a round of limbo with the kids. Thank you to all the neighbors around Sterling Lake for your patience as your neighborhood was transformed for a couple of hours. Thank you to all who came out for our Memorial Day parade and observance. We truly got very lucky with the weather, squeezing in the parade and observance sandwiched in between the bands of rain. Special thank you to Larry Basinski and LMB Audio, along with Ernie Leteri, for working with us all weekend long before the event to get things set up for providing the sound and audio at the event. Thank you to all who marched in the parade and those who took part in the program at Central School. We had a beautiful observance to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we may enjoy the freedoms that we do today. Special thank you for the guidance of Dick Dorsey, former post commander of the Long Hill American Legion. All right, here we go. The pickleball court continues to be busy. Long Hill residents can reserve court times on Community Pass at no charge. And while you're at the pickleball courts enjoying them, please remember to dink responsibly. Come on, guys, give me a little love here. Registration is open for swim lessons with Lee at Sterling Lake. We will start this weekend and go through the summer. Check out the schedule on our website. Registration for lessons is on Community Pass. Come take a class with us at the lake. Sounds like it's time for a cheeseburger in paradise. Join us on Friday, 6/21 at Sterling Lake, 7 p.m. for Parrot Beach, a Jimmy Buffett tribute band, and a real crowd favorite. Pack a picnic basket and join us on the beach for this free concert. We can't think of a better way to welcome in the summer. Remember, parking is limited, so we encourage carpooling and walking to the event. And different from the other concert, this one, again, remember, this one's at Sterling Lake, not at Cantor. All right. I edited that in on my own. All right, finally, slide 8. Mark your calendars for all of our Dog Days of Summer concerts and come enjoy some great bands. All concerts are again free. Make sure also to mark your calendar for National Night Out in Cantor Park on Tuesday, August 8th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Watch for more details, but Long Hill has a lot of fun in store for National Night Out, a perfect night out for the family. And that concludes the Recreation Liaison Report.
Well done, Vic.
Well, thank you.
And Randy, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. In the near future, we're going to have a sign out here outside Town Hall, so these concerts and other timely announcements will be there. So I know in the past, Vic, you have mentioned maybe the attendance is a little bit lower than it would be at those free concerts, just because people don't know.
Yep.
But that's going to be rectified in short order.
Awesome.
Is that okay, Randy?
Yep.
All right, so here, just a couple of announcements. Blood drive at St. Vincent de Paul, Tuesday, June 18th. That's next Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. I think everybody knows where St. Vincent de Paul is. It's on Main Avenue. You can go to their website, or you can go to newyorknybc.org, NJ Drive. I've been going to this blood drive twice a year for when I'm in town for 30 years. It's an important, critical need in town. So please, if you're able to and you are available, please, St. Vincent de Paul Blood Drive, Tuesday, June 18th, 1 to 7 p.m. And again, St. Vincent de Paul. So just the first aid squad, I think most, if not all, residents in town have received a letter. This is their annual fund drive, and I thought it would be the right thing to do to read the letter. Dear friends and neighbors, you are the reason our ambulances and volunteers can respond to medical emergencies, stand at sporting events, house fires, and police emergencies. Together, we provide emergency medical care 7 days a week, 24 hours per day, providing emergency medical care for your family, your neighbors, and perhaps someday even you. And I know my family has been tended to by the first aid squad and the fire company and the police. I didn't commit a crime. Last year, first aid squad volunteers responded to 717 first aid calls. This is relatively standard. It tends to be average 2 a day. Of course, sometimes there are 5, sometimes there are none. But it averages out to about 2 a day, and it has for years. And this is the critical part. None of our patients received a bill for our services. Now I'm speaking on behalf of the first aid squad. Your generous donation is for squad training, ambulance and building maintenance, replacement equipment, and personal protective equipment. They are also saving for a replacement ambulance in 5 years will cost about $200,000, and another replacement ambulance in about 10 years. Hopefully the committee's still in a great financial position, and we will certainly help, we being the residents, you taxpayers. Every month we have several simultaneous calls requiring 2 and sometimes 3 ambulances. Hence anybody who was curious why we have 3 ambulances. We remain in all volunteer service, and it is your contribution that makes this possible. Checks may be made payable to the Long Hill First Aid Squad, enclosed in the envelope provided. If you have one, if you don't, you could just drop it off at the First Aid Squad building. Any questions, you can contact the treasurer at longhillfasfirstaidsquad.org. And this letter is kindly signed by Bob English, Captain, Lisa Scanlon, President, and Scott Orshan, Treasurer. So please, if you are able to, know the invaluable work that the First Aid Squad does. And remember, they are a 100% volunteer organization. Now, just one other minor announcement. Well, it's not minor, actually, I shouldn't have said that. Regarding a First Aid Squad member. And Amanda Karski, Miss Amanda Karski, if you're out there, Bob English said I had permission to do this. If I do not, have your dad, Ed, take it up with him. Ed, I played basketball with for many years, and I think he was trying to hurt me all those years. And sometimes did. So here, the announcement is this. Amanda Karski, MD, has her medical school graduation tomorrow. She is a Long Hill resident and began her medical career at the Long Hill First Aid Squad. That is not uncommon. Many medical folks here in town who've gone on to school, medical, nursing, etc., have started right here at the First Aid Squad. She is graduating from the American University of Antigua College of Medicine. I don't know if I'm supposed to get this granular. Her commencement is Thursday, June 13th at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. There must be some friends of Amanda out there. And this part is the most stunning of all. And again, Amanda, I apologize. Captain English said I could say this. If that wasn't enough, graduating medical school, getting her medical degree, on Saturday, she is getting married. So God bless and Godspeed to you, Amanda. And if your dad's mad I made all those announcements, tell him to go see Bob.
I'm sure she's watching.
No, she was watching. All right, so I think we go right now to the
I
administrator's
got
report.
another announcement, a brief one.
Okay.
I know it's half over, but I'd like to wish a happy Pride Month to all our friends, family, and neighbors in the LGBTQ community.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Batter up.
Okay. I already spoke about public service, which was one of my things. The other thing that's going on, Poplar Road, they started concrete work today. This work will go on for approximately a week, and milling and paving will occur next week, weather permitting. So that, depending on the weather, that may be postponed. But you know, when the paving's going on, if you know Poplar Drive, that side exit out of ShopRite and going into ShopRite will not be available. So just be aware of that. Make other plans. We do have something on the website referring to this. So once we get a no pun on words, a concrete date for the paving, we'll throw that up on the website also.
From the beginning of the project to the end, how many days did you say?
Beginning to the end of the actual work, it's less than 2 weeks.
Have we notified the owners of ShopRite and that
Yes.
and the mall?
Yes.
They are aware.
Yes.
Because that is
That was a big-
going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that was a big communication. We're going to have officers out there.
I was just going to say, we've
directing-
notified the police.
Yeah, directing traffic. Actually, the lieutenant was here talking about National Night Out, and I dragged him into a meeting because this is going to be tricky, obviously.
It is.
Because they're probably going to have to allow left-hand turns out on the valley, so police will be there to assist people getting in and out of the ShopRite Mall.
Yeah, that parking lot is a challenge on the best of days. So
So the paving
yeah.
itself should only be 2 days.
Okay, so the road will have access.
Yeah, the road will have access during the milling
those 2
portion,
days are the key.
but during the paving portion, it will be closed.
Understood. Perfect.
That's all I have.
That's all?
We
All right.
have one discussion item.
Any other announcements? No, we're good.
Good.
All right, so we're going to go discussion vacating paper streets. I think I've seen this before.
Yeah,
You have.
and it was a mistake the first time.
So,
We tried
Been
doing them
mistaken
all.
not proceeding.
Well,
so
we-
this specifically refers to discussion with vacating Carroll Lane and Manuel Street.
right.
Can you give more information as to where that is? We know where it is, but I don't think the public does.
It's at the far end of Long Hill Road. Carroll Lane goes off Long Hill and Manuel goes behind the properties in front of Long Hill Road.
On the Long, well, there he goes. There we go again. The Long Hill Road in that Long Hill Township owns.
It's just past that. It's just past that S turn on Long Hill Road where there's that pond,
Right.
right? And both of these roads go nowhere.
Correct.
Really can go nowhere. One of them is a resident's driveway, or at least half of it,
Yep.
and the other is a road to nowhere behind that, which is edged up against state land. Now, when we first, this was first brought to our attention, we thought maybe we would go through and address paper roads everywhere, and then we quickly found out every single one of these is a corner case, and we'll just troubleshoot the ones that are a problem as they come up. And so this cleans this one up and kind of gets it off our book, so to speak, right, Jack?
And we probably have more paper streets than any town in the state, because there must have been subdivisions laid out right before the 1929 crash. So down on the Berkeley Heights end, there are all these Orange Street and Roosevelt Avenue, Newark streets with 50-foot lots
Right.
that have been laid out. But yeah, so, and the town has the right to vacate by ordinance paper streets that have never been accepted by the township. All we have to do is reserve rights to any utilities that may be in them, and as long as they're not needed for public use, we can vacate them. We never had title to them, and that's a common misconception. So we vacate them, all we're doing is saying the public no longer has a right, and then it's up to the property owners to determine title
And maintain.
and maintain, that's correct.
So I think you had, did you write up an ordinance on
Yes.
this, or,
Yeah, I did submit an ordinance,
and it's right there?
yes. And like I said, it vacates Carroll Lane and Manuel Street and reserves any
Can we do it
easements for
now,
any
or do we
utilities.
need
Yes,
to?
you can introduce it tonight, yes.
Yeah, it's going, I mean, second reading will still come and the public can comment on this, but I would suggest, unless there are any objections from the committee, to look for a motion to approve. And you have a number for it,
Ordinance
Jack?
545-24.
So moved.
545-24, can you say the title of it? An ordinance vacating paper streets known as Carroll Lane and Manuel Street.
I'll second.
Ms. Megan?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
And the second reading and adoption and public hearing will be on July 17th, 2024.
Thank you, Megan. All the new business. Announcements, I think I jumped.
I think we beat announcements
Yeah.
to death.
So if anybody, no other announcements, what I'll do now is I will open up the meeting to the public. Please kindly keep your remarks and statements pertaining to any matter, well, remarks and statements pertaining to any matter, not just what was discussed tonight, any and all. If you could, kindly keep your comments and remarks to 3 minutes. I see an energetic, who is this gentleman? State your name and address, please.
Tom Groskopf, Gillette. Could hardly hear you guys before. I'm very glad that Long Hill Road, the eastern section of it, is going to be milled and repaved. That's fantastic. Sorry to say, there's a dead branch hanging over it. Hopefully nobody gets hit while that's being milled. I'll report it tomorrow for you, let you know where it is. Actually, I'm here because I've been driving around the town, and I've noticed some signs, and they seem to be faded, weathered, and they're old. And I think the concept might be might have slipped us for a little while. Neighborhood Watch. The number reported the number listed is the police department's number. I don't know if this is solely a police function or is it a function of the township. I don't know if there's ever been in the recent past any meetings of these people.
It's funny
How
you
does
bring
this
that
go
up.
forward?
The section I live in, which is Fenview Deer Path, we had a neighborhood watch group for many, many years, and it kind of faded away. And I don't know, Director Peoples, if you have any color you can add to those things. I don't know whose purview that is. Is it under the purview of the police department?
Was under the purview of the police department up until probably the early 2000s. It has not been an active program for many, many years.
I know I just put you on a spot. Is that something you think is a good idea to bring back?
Certainly, it's a good idea to, consider the interest. Yes.
Fair enough.
Joe
Here's
had
what,
a-
Tom, you know how it works.
Joe
The person
had-
that comes up with a good idea at that mic now leads the charge.
Joe
I think
had
Joe
a,
has a.
yeah.
Joe, okay, Joe, would you mind coming up to the mic and saying it so we...
So,
I did look into the neighborhood watch at one point, and some of the training that I've done in my 3 years. The neighborhood watch program has tailed off a little bit nationwide, not accidentally. It was kind of shelved a little bit and kind of came up in one of the, I think it was an incident down in Florida or Georgia. There was an incident with neighborhood watch that became challenging from like a racial profiling standpoint.
I remember this.
I forget the name of the gentleman that was shot. Unfortunately, that kind of left a cloud over, I think, the program. That was my perception of reading some of the commentary and some of the social media remarks about it. And not that it's not a valid program. I think it's still out there from a national perspective. You can still do it. I kind of, once I saw that, didn't pursue it any further. And like I said, there's value there. It's been a good program for decades in the country, but obviously it ran into some challenge.
Yeah.
That's something to consider either way.
So Director Peoples, I apologize, that kind of did put you on a spot, and you as well, Joe. It's worth looking into, so we'll have a discussion, and we'll see if it makes sense in today's day and age.
And technology has changed things too with ring cameras and other things, so.
Right. Perhaps that's one of the things that if this starts up again, maybe it starts up with a new focus or emphasis. And
We'll see.
are you thinking of the Trayvon Martin killing? Is that who that was?
No.
That wasn't the one down in
Florida.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
We
who.
don't have to go down
Doesn't
that
matter.
path. What else is on your mind, Mr. Groskopf?
More things than I can say here, so I'll just leave it be at that. And just if we could think about something like that, because we know that there's been a couple of things that tells me that crime in this town, where we've been blessed in the past, our blessings might be wearing thin. So, might be time to get people's eyes out. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
From
Tom.
Milton Avenue.
and lady.
Any other member of the public who is in this courtroom? Seeing none, Megan, home.
Mary Ann Noonan would like to speak.
Mary Ann, please state your name and where you live. Ish.
Ish. I just unmuted myself. Mary Ann Noonan, 110 Lackawanna Boulevard in Gillette.
Hi.
Do you want to take notes on my questions? Sorry, guys. Number one, can you please define for the residents exactly what the cap bank is? I do have my degree in accounting. It's a different nomenclature when it comes to a township. And I just want to make sure that residents aren't confused. That a cap bank is a HELIC versus an interest-bearing account. Okay, that's my first question. Second question.
Randy, yeah.
Would you prefer if I go through my questions and then?
Yes.
Okay. Second question. Welcome, Director Peebles. I do have some questions, one of which I'm going to start with the Township Committee. I had spoken, I'm not sure with whom, but, I mentioned maybe, and this goes back in terms of what was just spoken about with regards to a neighborhood watch. Whether or not we can establish a basic self-defense class for members of our township, especially women with children entering their cars in parking lots, etc. That was one of the questions I had in one of my recommendations. So who would I direct this question to at this point? Formally.
I'm sorry. So we have both questions. Was there a third?
Yes, you got more. Sorry.
Say that again.
Okay, this is a big thank you to Joe Hubert. Okay. And also, I just want to also comment on the neighborhood watch. On Lackawanna Boulevard, we also have a neighborhood watch sign. And just to tail off on what Joe Hubert's, I've been watching some of the other townships. They're trying to incorporate the same policy. Problem being, our status quo, I'm going to put it politically correct as best I can. A neighborhood watch is no longer, a good bunch of people, checking out their areas, etc. There's been a lot more turmoil, in the news with regards to that. And last question with paper roads, specifically the one that was spoken about was only one today. That's accurate. I know in the past meetings with regards to the planning board, there was going to be a deep dive into these paper roads. And my question is, is there a liability? How do you assume ownership of these roads? And that's it. I'm sorry. I know I have a lot of questions.
No.
That's
That's perfect. The easy one is a thank you to Joe Hubert.
I know.
So
I can give you a little.
we can all agree with that. Cap bank's probably a little bit more extensive. So Jack, could I go to paper roads as far as liability?
Yeah, there's no liability. As I said, the township never owned them. The public had the right. They're similar to an easement. We've never used Carroll Lane or Emmanuel Street. They're no longer needed for public use, so there's no liability whatsoever. And as I said, title, it reverts to the prior owner or his or her successor in title.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I say, we don't get into the title. We're just abandoning the public's right. Usually, it goes half and half, 50% to one side and half to the other side of the paper street. But that's not always the case.
Thank you.
So
And as far as your second question regarding self-defense, Administrative Barr pointed out to me that might be something we can do through the recreation department, bring in certified instructors. I don't know if, from a liability perspective, no reason why not. We do CPR trainings and et cetera, so.
To Lisa's watching, we can refer that on to Lisa.
Yeah, and I'll talk to her about
Yeah.
that. Cap Bank.
Cap Bank, there we go, that's the one.
Okay, Cap Bank, take out the word bank and substitute it with allowance. A cap allowance allows the town in any given year where they do not meet an appropriation cap, which is expenses, they can reserve that for up to 2 years to use in a future budget. The tax cap allowance is a similar allowance. If you don't use the 2% cap allowance, and there are exceptions to each of the caps that don't apply, you can save that for a 3-year period to use in a future period. Now, if you don't do this appropriation cap ordinance, you're tied to the 1% that the cap that the state determines for this year. What we did is increase it to 3.5, so we are saving, if you will, saving the allowance, the cap allowance of 2.5% into the next 2 future years. So it's not a bank at all. It's not actual money. It's just allows the town to either increase taxes over the tax cap bank or increase appropriations over the appropriation cap bank.
Okay, so it's like a temporary account per se. It's not interest bearing nor loan bearing.
No, there's no money involved or anything. It's just an allowance to increase a tax amount higher than the 2% or increase appropriations higher than the cap that the state sets every year.
Yeah, to be clear, Mary Ann, the reason it's not non-interest bearing, it's not real money. It's fake. It should never have been called Cap Bank. The good news for you and all residents is the Township Committee has never used either of those, as I called them earlier, misleadingly.
It's a safety
Called Cap
valve
Bank.
that's never been used.
Yep.
And we will never use it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
You too.
Megan.
If anybody else on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Motion adjourned.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a wonderful evening, everybody. And thank you for those who have attended, either at home or here in the audience. Director Peoples, that was a heroic effort. You stayed for the entire evening, so thank you.
Thank you. That was a surprise.
A lot of officers here.